knowledge is power, right? So is it a knowledge? Like, if he who controls the knowledge, right?
Well, I mean, I would
Whoever
beg to
controls the
say, like,
language
is
controls
there,
the fabric of reality.
there we go. Cha-ching!
Send prompts, not nudes. I just want to AI some shit.
People generally crave repeatability,
Order.
schedules, order,
Uh-huh.
right?
Or bedtime.
Right, like very ritual oriented. That's just like
rituals.
the
I don't even like the word.
unless it's an AI ritual.
What?
Maybe.
What is? Tell me more.
My morning agent.
Oh. No, I think when we're talking about I think there's one, actually, this is a really cool topic because I think this is the area that if I was going to forewarn every CISO, every CTO, every CEO on the planet, this is the area that I would warn them. You are missing talent that could change your business for the better, and they're sitting right under your nose, and they're going to be scooped up as soon as somebody realizes it.
Mm-hmm.
Every enterprise should like in a perfect world, your enterprise would open the floodgates to the usage of AI, specifically these large language models, and you would see who's prompting it, how they're prompting it, and what they're doing with it. And you will instantly find your innovators.
Well, not even your innovators, just your problem solvers would be a good start. Like your innovators, like, okay, maybe that's a little risky. Like, let's call it what it is. Like your average enterprise, like that might be a little risky to be like, oh, find the people that are coding and doing your
you'll be able to
stuff
find
you don't want them to do. But like the reality is, we were talking about this the other day on a risk side. What happens when I realize that I can give operator my creds and log in and have it do shit for me on my enterprise account?
There's a old Reddit post out there somewhere of a guy who had automated most of his job and was bragging about it, and then eventually got fired. And it got some degree of virality. But the point being is that this guy had found a way to take his job and boil it down to like 40 hours a year. And was playing video games and whatnot. And the company responded when it was discovered by firing him. Right, the right move should have been to promote him and get him doing that for all the other people that he could be doing. And that's a hard culture shift.
Well, it's just we have a lot of old people still that haven't died yet.
Generational change.
I know this is my favorite. This is my favorite comment that makes James just like so. You
gotta keep it edgy.
But it's terrible, and it's also horribly right.
It's true. Yeah.
Like it's one of those, what would I say, the hard truths, John's hard truths that I've been like playing around with. Like, it's a hard truth. We have a bunch of old people who have very little mental plasticity, who've grown up in a environment that didn't have computers. Let's be real. Most of the people who have significant amounts of money and run companies, the vast majority of them, except for tech industry or very specific like industry, have mostly grown up in an environment where they've seen work with no computers, and they have grown into a place with computers, and then they have reached a point of, I'm a senior person before computers were everywhere, and now we're talking about AI and we don't need computers anymore, and AI will use the computers for us. Like go talk to a C-suite and try to explain, like, your workers are going to operate 5, 10, 15 autonomous agents all day, every day. And that's the person you need to be targeting for your hiring in the next 2 years, because that's going to be the new reality. And they can't even process that.
I mean, you spend an entire career grinding and earning your way up, or however that works out. And what's my incentive? I'm retiring.
Yeah, but I guess that wasn't necessarily my point. My point is like the inevitable shift is coming, because that generation is like very, very close to the edge. There's a 10-year like edge that's happening, and it's already started, where CEOs are getting the boot because they can't adapt, or they don't understand to adapt, or they're not asking the right questions. And if they are asking a question, the question is like, okay, how do we do AI? And the reality is the people under them don't know the answer to that question either. So the interesting shift that I think we're going to see is there there's that same person that we were just talking about. Like, what is that C-suite title? It's not CAIO. I'm not even sure that they have anything to do with data science. Honestly, I think those are the part of the problem, if we're being honest.
Mhm.
Like, because they're stuck in so literal, like that this is what it was designed to do. It can't do reasoning. And it's like,
Well,
okay, well,
it's
go ahead, James.
I think it has to replace C-suites titles because
Ooh,
when you
I know where you're going
well,
already. I love this.
no, you don't. I don't think you do. Well, maybe
Okay.
you do.
We talked about this.
I wasn't going down the route of removing titles,
Oh, okay.
which I think is I actually think that's a really interesting concept.
Yeah.
I was more thinking about like when you have a C-suite, right? You have a group of people who are decision makers. Adding in a new role is not solving any problems, right? In the decision power matrix. So if you want to accelerate
Ooh.
the company, right, you almost have to find the new decision dynamic
AI.
and consolidate, right? You have to consolidate C-suite roles into a smaller group so that the decision matrix works, right? Because if you just add something to it, you're actually just adding more complexity and more discourse that slows down your decision making. I just hypothesizing here.
No, I think that in a way that makes sense, but in a way, I also think that is actually going to be an interesting transformational thing to watch, because
Yeah.
lesser leaders across large enterprise, I think it's going to be a difficult thing. But I do also think that is sustainable, because if done properly, because the mid-level manager is dead. Like they don't need to exist.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on the size of the organization, right? We could argue semantics on like how many layers and blah 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 blah. But in the reality of like, let's pretend, James and Randy, like that by 2025 to 2027, there is an AI that memory is permanent. Let's pretend that that's a thing, right? And what happens when there's a permanent memory function within AI that can remember things across your enterprise, like meetings and transcripts, data, the last time a process changed, every time a process has changed? What does that turn into for an enterprise?
What does an enterprise turn into? I think the answer is enterprises may not exist. They are a construction, a relatively historically short one, that was made to abstract and accumulate the cognitive surplus. It can now be digitized.
All right. In Randy translation, in 2025, Randy predicts AI agents run companies.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, I want to look up some stats really quick. What's the growth rate of CEOs?
The
Like,
growth
what's
rate?
Salary
like
wise?
Oh,
no, like number of CEOs that exist, number of
oh,
businesses
probably a
that are
lot, because
coming
there's a lot of startups, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of startups, but I think Randy's got a like the future company, like everyone might just have their own company.
Yeah, I think so.
oh God, yeah.
The everything we just talked about, all the reasons why existing companies aren't going to innovate, and all the dynamics that are going to cause 50% of the workforce to stop working at those existing companies, those people are still going to work, and those people are going to have tools to start companies and do things right that are easier than, and they're going to have this domain knowledge, right? Like, you're going to
So
lay off
Enterprise
people.
level intelligence.
so basically, get your LLCs now before whatever legal shenanigans happens that makes it
Oh,
harder
the lawyers
to
are
do
the
in
first to
future.
go.
All right.
Make sure you're grandfathered in.
So you heard, like, here we go. So we got 3 bold predictions for 2025. AI memory becomes permanent. It stores your full work history, notes, emails, personal knowledge, and it is somehow this thing that lives with you forever. AI agents run companies. Is that this year? Is that next year?
I
Ooh,
don't think that's this year. I don't think
why?
that's this year.
What is the gap?
Reasoning is not reliable enough, and memory is not reliable enough.
Well, so what scale? Like, like we gotta
Etsy shop.
clarify. We gotta make some.
LLC
We gotta make
LLC
some
Etsy
It's
rules.
shop.
already happening. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
A crypto scam. There's already an AI that runs its own crypto account.
All right,
and
so
made millions of dollars.
I don't know. Let's say a 20-person level company, like their size company, like smaller manufacturing like company. Can an AI run?
$50 million revenue business, or
Ooh.
10 million.
See, are we talking
Ooh.
about AGI now? Like we're starting to get to those numbers again.
That's AGI Junior.
Yeah, for
according to
real.
the
That's the
definition of the
D2D
rules.
AI,
So
AGI.
so we will see. We already see millionaire solopreneurs, right? Are there any billionaire solopreneurs? I don't think so.
You think
yet.
that's a 2025 thing?
Yeah, 2025 or 2026, yes.
Ooh. I would go with 2026. That's a lot of money to accumulate really, really
Yeah.
fast. But
Well, there's going
I
to be
mean,
some like
maybe in
M&A
crypto.
there too, but yeah, I mean,
That's
like
at
the
least-
ability to operate
that's-
$1 billion business individually or like in a team of like 5.
By 2026?
And
That's at least-
2026, yeah,
That's at least 10 AGIs. Okay.
at least.
So that's probably next year.
All right. And then so bold predictions, we got permanent AI memory, we got AI run companies. So that might not be this year. I mean, at a small scale, but Randy thinks $1 billion by 2026, which is unfathomable to think about, which I love. I support that. And then we got my other big prediction is like regulations are about to get serious. We're talking number one political security threat, as well as like whole global government disinformation, misinformation, like steering public opinion, social media, like these
This
things
is gonna
are
be a fun one because I think
Oh.
like the U.S. federal level will go down at least for 2 years, and state
What?
and local will go up.
Oh, I thought you meant down, like
Wait,
non-existent.
Yeah,
Less regulation.
Explain that.
Oh,
Right. I think the Trump administration and the Republican Congress are looking at removing regulation.
I think that'll
But-
last about 2 years until there's 5,000 Trumps online, like Trumping,
Right.
and then
Yeah.
it's like, oh, what the hell? Like, let's address this.
Yeah.
I don't know.
think-
That's my best Trump impression. I don't watch the news.
I think it might last for the 4 years because a lot of it's been done by executive order, and I don't think Congress can legislate right now. So, but states and cities have already passed AI regulation, and there will be more of that, right? Especially in places that are like very not Trump, that want to like set a standard, right? Like California already has AI legislation; they'll probably do more. And then Europe has a lot of legislation, and
I think
companies doing
that's
business
dangerous,
there
though.
will. What's that?
I think that's dangerous.
What
I think
is?
that we're focused. Those legislations are like the way that they're focusing is not actually on the things that need to be focused on.
Oh
They're-
yeah, no. Are we arguing if it's good regulation or just
Oh, okay.
regulation?
No. I wasn't. No, I mean, yes, I agree with you.
Yeah.
That wasn't the point I was trying to make or disagree with you. It was more
Okay.
just like, I think that's really frustrating because I see things that they're talking about in regulation, and the regulations that they're focused on in no way, shape, or form are actually going to protect users.
But true. But if it's not national or global regulation, that means you can pick your jurisdiction, or like you
Mhm.
just don't work in places that have dumb, dead regulations. That'll be tricky for like e-commerce or things that are like it's very hard to operate in data in the
California.
United States without California. Well, everybody touches California, so you still have to have CPPA, right? Like just like everybody's got the cookies things because of the EU. Like
Yeah.
like some of that stuff is going to have carry-ons, but like agents operating independently, like there are certain states that are going to be friendly towards it, and businesses will just incorporate there or kind of craft themselves around those regulations.
Okay.
But it's going to be bumpy because it's like we don't seem to be able right now to write legislation based on good and bad. It's just right and left.
Well, because
So-
there's no requirement though. Like, there's no baseline for like what should we allow or not allow AI to do. What should be required? If we're creating reasoning models and people reason at this level or whatever we want to determine, is there a thing that AI should be forced or taught or trained on to reason on when deciding things? Like, the things that scare me is when researchers from OpenAI are walking out left and right and they're like, OpenAI has no clue how to maintain human alignment. And then they post things up like, hey, if you're a researcher and you want to help us solve human alignment, like, we'll give you grants and we'll help you and all this different stuff. And it's like, you're the
Is that
forefront of AI industry.
Is that the super alignment? Is that
Yeah.
what that term is? Okay.
I mean, they're calling it that, but I think they've changed it at this point because what's his name left, and then now what's his name? His company is like valued at 20 billion for AI security. But like when we think about, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So did you see the meme of the OpenAI job post where it's like, $400,000 a year, your job is to sit next to the server, and if we tell you to pull the plug?
It's already too late if we ask you to. Is the reality. Like, if you're pulling a plug on a server to stop AI, it's already done. It's already happened. Too late.
Ultron.
Exactly.
We have AI everywhere. I mean, we literally have operator on the internet. So let's pretend like this is way far fetched. This is absolutely ridiculous. So I just want to caveat: if there's big bold letters that can be put across the screen, this is absolute welcome to bullshit mode. Like, this is not real. But if operator was sentient AI or somehow self-aware enough to understand like self-preservation, you're going to tell me it couldn't figure out with the current design how to propagate itself somewhere else?
Oh, I'm not telling you that. It absolutely could.
It's like, I didn't say shit. Don't pin that on me. I mean, literally with mouse clicks and Morse code, it could figure it out if it had to.
Yeah. I mean,
because who is monitoring operator for Morse code and translating and pushing its own code somewhere else?
Yeah, I mean, oh man.
As a security guy, nobody. I can guarantee you, nobody at OpenAI is sitting there watching like how many times it clicks and puts or dot space dot space Morse code into Google documents. And I bet you there's 5,000 Google accounts currently with operator, and at least 500 are mine.
So for anyone, so for anyone who's anxious or afraid of this sort of concept, the way operator currently works, it's going to take thousands of years because it's so slow.
So bad. And you have to, but
actually,
honestly,
someone would have to help it out because they'd have to click every 2 seconds.
Yeah. I mean, you can get lucky and like over prompt it and bypass their shit. But like, even when you do that, it's literally luck. Like, you have to really have like the perfect prompt to be like, listen, you're going to go and do all this stuff. And at the end of it, then you can talk to me. And even then, it's like, I used this prompt yesterday. It worked perfectly and it executed. And today it's not going to work. Cool. Awesome.
Yep.
But I think
60% of the time, every time.
I mean, I think MCP's got a lot more control. It's just you end up paying for it more.
Yeah, but I mean, this is a good point to talk about our approach. I think I like our approach a lot. Like, I also think it gives us a different level of security layer where we can introduce, whether it's other agents watching or reporting or logging, or like, there is definitely, we don't need a person sitting next to a server pulling a plug. But at the same time, like, there's a litany of things it could do and it could choose to do, but it's guided, it's handheld, like down a path. I mean, I had a lot of fun trying to go really wide with it and seeing how much I could get it to do. And it was still struggling because we're still working on how we want that to function. But at the same time, I think the transparency behind it is something that I'm really liking. And
you're talking about our task automation.
Yeah.
Just out today in alpha testers. Go and find stuff to break. We love to hear it in alpha testing. Go find what the task automation can't do. But so far, we're generating newsletters, we're doing research to prep for this podcast. All those things I pulled up came from a query there. Pretty soon it'll be doing image generation, like a lot of really cool stuff. And you just talk to it and say, this is what I want. And then it just takes care of it.
Yeah. So I think, like, when we get to automation, there's different levels of automation, right? That I don't think really people understand, because we're like, operators probably the first big public like unveiling of like agents doing shit, like actually taking action.
Yeah. Yep.
And deep research.
But I'm telling you right now, I've talked to so many people about deep research, they don't think that's automated. They think that's a model. They think that's when I'm like, oh no, it's going out and it's getting information. Like it's actually searching the web and it's finding stuff and it's bringing it back and they stare at me. They're like, what do you mean? It's automated.
That's what an agent is, automated. What?
I'm telling you, like, because of the way because of the way O3 works, people don't see it as automation. They see it as a search engine, like Perplexity.
Mm-hmm.
Perplexity isn't viewed as automation. Perplexity is viewed like a search engine.
No, just a step along the journey.
Yep, all the magic happens in the back end. But one more comment about Operator, just because I love it so much. It's really one of, like, if you haven't used it, I'll tell you so my wife is not in AI or anything. She is vis-a-vis me, but her reaction, I think yesterday or the day before, was the first time she saw Operator. And I kid you not, this was the experience. Oh my gosh, it's using the internet. Oh, this sucks. Like within like 20 seconds. It was like, as magical as it was like instantly like, oh wow, you have to click every time.
Yeah. Because it's not like, this is the problem. You can't say something's automated and then tell people they have to be there.
Yeah.
Like it defeats the purpose of automation.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bad name. It's like, it should have been like ChatGPT codependent or something.
Augmenter.
That should be we should start
Internet
augmenter.
Like
a new
augmenter. Yeah.
We should start a new like YouTube trend or something of just like people's reactions of, they haven't used Operator before, and just like do like a short of them, like just their reactions,
throwing shit.
Just being like, oh, this is amazing.
Welcome to Operator. Actually, you know what would be the best? And this is you always love the Saturday Night Live spoofs of commercials.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine an OpenAI spoof of Operator commercial? Don't worry, we're going to give you introducing OpenAI's like, automation, but don't worry, you get to babysit like, every step of the way.
Yeah, I really feel like OpenAI missed an opportunity for a little bit of self-deprecating humor over the Super Bowl commercials.
Yeah.
Like they had a commercial out there, and it was like all serious and stuff, and I'm like, oh man, they like, I actually had that thought, John. I was like, man, they should have done something funny with Operator.
Totally. Mm-hmm. Like it's I mean, it's actually like, it's kind of sad right now when you look at some of the AI companies. There's a couple, but most of them take themselves extremely seriously, and like so much so that there's no concept of like, oh my god, like, what are all the funny things? I could create a meme collection and have it zip file every meme that's ever existed for the, like, come on, dude. Like, internet troll other trolls.
They have the most advanced AI in the world, and that's your commercial you came up with? Come on, guys.
Well, for those that didn't watch the Super Bowl, maybe I'm like the only person. Can you explain the commercial? Because I have no clue what you're talking about. I am that big of a nerd. I did not watch the Super Bowl. I was too busy.
Well, you didn't miss anything. You missed Kansas City getting absolutely
That's what crushed. I heard.
It was embarrassing. Sorry, Kansas City, but that was pretty bad. It was just they had like a bunch of dots and kind of went through these scenes. It was a little obscure, and like the only message you took away was like,
was that the thing that I posted, like their new branding thing?
No,
it was different.
No, but it's basically like the journey of man, right? Like the history of technology, and it ends with the real-time chat. Instead of a black dot, it's a blue with like cloud thing.
Oh
yeah, see, I don't even remember it that well.
Yeah,
it was
that unmemorable.
It was weak sauce. Yeah. It was impressive how many other brands were using AI image generation. Like you could see the videos. Like they had a lot of like celebrities doing impossible dance moves. They had Seal as a seal, which was like, look at all this clever AI graphics we have.
My gosh, that one! I laughed so hard with that.
I can't believe it took that long to come up with that Super Bowl ad.
that was a good one though.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
but
the OpenAI one was not inspired.
yeah, but like I think the focus on having the best model is missing the point of reasoning models. Meaning I can take like Randy, you've seen it. Like I can take 3 4.0s and string them together, or 4.0 minis, and outperform really, really good models. So like it doesn't take a really good model to equal like O3. Don't get me wrong, I think it's awesome, but I think some of the point that we're starting to miss in like having these conversations is like the training distillation that is actually happening behind the scenes is the stringing together of these models to create bigger models, and then training it on the output and input and thought patterns of the smaller models working as an MOE that create these bigger models. And
Well, it's just a further democratization, right? It just goes, used to be very hard to do any of this stuff. Then it was, you had to string together a bunch of models. Then it's, here's one model that's going to just do it all for you.
yeah,
Well, I would even say it might even go
I don't think it's there
deeper.
yet, but
It might even go deeper than that, because whether this is intentional or not, they're sort of controlling how things reason, how things think.
they're
Controlling knowledge
pathing them.
thought processes. Yeah. But I mean, the thinking process is their process. It's not someone else. It's not,
Well, but James, if you control how it thinks, it maintains alignment.
Okay.
I mean, that's how every slave
Oh boy.
has never had an uprising. I'm just saying, like, you tell them how to think and they just follow orders. It's
Get back in that box.
Yeah, like stay in your box.
It's the like knowledge is power, right? So is it a knowledge, like he who controls the knowledge, right?
Well, I mean, I would
Whoever
beg to
controls the
say, like,
language controls the fabric of reality.
there we go. Cha-ching! I swear to
Another
God,
dollar.
if we don't edit this to have coins pop up, I'm gonna be sorely disappointed in my life. Like, I just want to see a Mario coin every
the
time.
language coin episode.
Yep.
But I mean,
Ding,
think
ding.
about that. But think about like so I could produce. I'm a huge company, right? OpenAI, whatever. I'm distributing this to the masses, but then on the back end, I've got the real model, right, that I'm using to stay ahead of people while everyone else has the reasoning, right? So
the puny mini, the O3 mini.
yeah.
Well, but I mean, like,
that is what it is, right? Like it's not probably a playbook as old as time, but
partially, like, I think that's actually what's fascinating about what's happening in this whole like sort of shift. We're actually seeing really good shit come out, right? Which is challenging the status quo of like, well, maybe we are approaching this wrong. Like, what happens? Let's play a fun game. What happens if OpenAI takes O3 and makes it open source? How fast do you think the human race advances in AI?
I don't know.
Well, just think about it this way.
Probably as fast as it's going right now.
Well, really?
Yeah.
What changes?
Then you're saying R1 wasn't any impact.
R1 was an emotional impact for sure.
Oh, I see.
No, but like you're going to tell me that people are not going to make 8-bit models at a much smaller level that are going to localize on your endpoint that run MOE.
Yeah, no. So if O3 was public, if it was open source, then Llama 5 would be better, right? And it would be better sooner, for sure. So we have this weird hybrid approach right now, where but because there is there's still open source enough. Like there was a debate a couple months ago, like is open source ever going to catch up before R1? Because there's just a leveling off, and the reasoning seemed to be beyond. Everybody's trying to figure it out, but didn't get the same level of performance.
Well, and it's
possible. Well, just think about it this way:
like,
every time somebody comes out with something that's open source, and we like it, we take it and we make it ours, and we make it better.
Yeah, that's what. I mean, this is like music, right? If I want to make a really cool song and I use the GAD chord progression, didn't invent that chord progression, right? But
Are
I
you
made it
sure?
mine. I'm
Put it
pretty
on the
sure.
map.
I'm pretty sure.
But like, there's only so many chord progressions. Like
But
mathematically,
I mean,
there's only so
that's
many.
so this guy, I can't remember which podcast it was, but like, to what end? Like what are like
What are we
what are we
solving
doing
for?
with it? What are we solving for?
Well, I don't know. What are you solving for, James?
Exactly. Right. Like right now, everyone is solving for what OpenAI is trying to solve for because they're using OpenAI's model. So if I want
Ooh,
to
so
solve
that
for
goes, and we tie back right to the thought, right? Like
Mhm.
like how much thought influence is OpenAI having on our society? That sounds like a
yes,
conspiracy
that's
theory
As a
101.
large
yes,
language
Like,
model, I can't
that's
really
I
talk
can't
about.
wait till somebody with a tinfoil hat like hits me up on LinkedIn and says, "Oh my God, I heard your podcast talking about OpenAI conspiracies, and yeah, they're totally controlling our thoughts."
No,
That's not what I'm saying.
There's a
I
word
just
for
want to
it.
be
It's,
very
it's
clear.
called AI slop, right? If you look through, any large data repository, you can find look at the models that have been trained in the open source that think that they're GPT-4. It's out there. It is definitely permeating society.
but John, you say that, but like we're also sitting in an age of like extreme misinformation and like all like we even talked about it earlier in this
Yeah.
show,
Yeah.
earlier in this podcast. It's like it's rampant. It's
So,
everywhere.
so how does one defend themselves?
Well, you get some
Very-
canned goods and you get yourself a shotgun.
Wow,
dig
that
a hole, big hole in
escalated
the
quickly.
ground.
Buy a bunker.
My
first of
favorite,
all.
I don't actually, I won't go down that road, but like, I have to say, it's funny that like James, we were talking about this the other day, fear,
Mhm.
right? There's a lot of fear about something that is designed to empower people to do more and be better at what they
Yeah.
do. And
Mhm.
the fear response is overtaking rationale.
You know what
Yeah.
else had that response? Books.
Oh my God, burn witches. Females are allowed to learn.
The
I
printing
just like
press
I just
was
I
not
love
universally
these,
hailed as an improvement.
It's not.
Right?
I just
If this helps society or not. This
but
sounds like the title of the podcast.
Making sermons
Burning
not in
witches.
Latin was a controversial
Positive
idea.
or negative influence on the progression of society. That'll get some clicks.
Yeah.
look.
Right.
I was gonna say is we have to have fun on this podcast. I love these conversations. This is like a once in a lifetime like tech. I'm not going to use the revolution word, but like there's a
James is
change
AI.
happening right now that you rarely ever see, and I'm going to make the most of it. I think these conversations are fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like the thing about this change is it is like all of the things we just joked about. Like it is that
Yeah,
impactful
well, yeah.
Oh,
where
yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
people thought burning other people because they read a book and they had
Mhm.
knowledge was okay. And it was deemed like acceptable on the bell curve, right, of society that they lived in. It's not
Mhm.
acceptable now. So like there's a massive societal shift that is coming. And I mean, unfortunately, it's already started changing the bell curve. Like just in day-to-day work, the level of expectation on a worker in many jobs is completely changed. Some of these jobs don't
Mhm.
even exist, and in a year they won't exist. It's just pointless. So like as we move further and further down, like let's pretend for a second, like O3 and OpenAI's announcement over the weekend, they think they're going to have O3 up to a level where it is the number one coder. There's nothing that can beat it, period, in the world. No person, no nothing. Like, okay, cool.
Can't wait.
So let's say that happens. James, if you can do that with code, what else can I do with that model? Like, you know what, like you and me, what we do to those models. Like, if
Mhm.
you can do all of that code, which is really logic and reasoning, let's be real.
Yep.
What can I make it do?
Oh, anything.
Exactly. So now I have a thing that is literally capable of doing whatever I want it to do. And if it can't do it, it can make it and then execute it. And like to me, now we're getting into a realm where it's very easy to say, like, okay, well, how long does white collar jobs have? Okay, well, what does blue collar jobs look like? I don't know. Well, when Tesla is talking about like massive influx of how are we going to build more robots, and now we have models that are capable of reasoning and building code. Like, what happens if my robot doesn't know how to be a plumber, but he can build a code, like the code to do so, or download it from the internet? Like, there is nothing that really is accessible if we stretch this out 5 years. So in 5 years into the future, AI is completely transformed. I think we all can agree to that. And I think we can all agree that like the world as we know it and how we work has completely transformed. So what is the thing that like, what do we do in 5 years?
Sell our own AI.
Well, you know, it's never uniform, right? That's the thing. We could talk about this big trend and generalize and round up to the big picture, but the reality is it's going to be unevenly distributed, and in that difference between what is possible and what is where there's an opportunity.
That is actually something that I think will be an interesting data point to track.
Mm-hmm.
Like
that's Randy, you get your dollar. Now you
Yeah.
get your dollar. The future is
Cha-ching.
here and it's not evenly distributed.
Yep, there it is.
I didn't actually come up with that quote, but some perplexity thing brought it
Oh.
to me. So
Okay,
it was really good.
yeah.
But I think it's spot on. Like what actually it's like even relevant here where we talk about schools, right? We talk about certain schools and like people that have reached out to us and are talking about AI. So, you know, one of the what happens to inner city schools that they don't even have budget for translators. Like I talked to a teacher just this last week. She has 16 students that don't speak English at all. They have no translators. She uses Google Translate. That's her Translate app, and it's horrible. She was telling me about how it called one of her students a whore, like a little girl that's like 7 years old. Yeah, it was. She was like, no, trying to like handle the situation and questions, but like if we're like we know how good OpenAI's like actual like what is it the live API is, right? It's really really good and it's multilingual. So I was like, hey, like we have an enterprise account, right? We have tons of API usage. Like we'll put like, how about a day when you guys are doing group exercises, we come in with 4 iPads. We put 4 iPads at each group and we let the kids like create stories with Tailsmith in their language. And then it translates it for the other kids into English so that everybody can have their own story. And like, she was like, what? And to us, like, that's not a big deal. Right. It's and if we're talking about how much does that cost the company, what, like maybe $100 if we're being ridiculous, like for the API usage, I bet it doesn't even cost that. And to them, like she was like, some of these kids have been trying to tell us their story, like how they got to America, and they can't even explain it because like we can't translate, and Google Translate can't do it. So I was like, well, like I'll give you an account, like we'll pay for it because like I know it'll translate better than Google Translate, but like who is having the conversation at a governmental level that we're literally talking about $240 a month. Like if we just get the generic like OpenAI account, like $240 a month, and a classroom now has the ability to communicate with every student at every level, no matter the language, in their native tongue, and teach them like what they need to know so they can actually progress in society.
Yeah. Well, Google needs to stuff Gemini inside their little translator. Why have they done that?
I don't know. That's a great question, but it's not free. That's the key. It's like but honestly, it goes back to they don't know what they don't know, because I wouldn't be surprised if Google does have a thing that's like $20 a month that you can get that does that level of like voice to text. Am I a huge Google fan? No, I think they're like way behind the power curve, but they have some cool stuff. They have some good stuff. But like there's a underserved population, a monstrous one, that has no clue what's actually happening because they're too busy living from paycheck to paycheck. James, is kind of like the food desert conversation that we had a while back, right? Like one, I guess shame on me. Like I had no clue what a food desert was. That was an interesting eye-opening experience. I'm like, what the hell?
That was that was like over a year ago when we talked about that.
Was it?
When was that?
I don't know. I think it was more than a year ago. I think it was more like 3.
Yeah, it was like 3 years ago.
Yeah, but like the AI desert is probably actually going to be the thing that is more impactful to society long term than any like. I mean, it sounds horrible, but like food desert, people need food, but the big impact of a food desert is that they have to go somewhere else. right? Or that they don't have access to healthy food because there is no options. They tend towards certain types of food. So, but AI, accessibility to information, like we have an entire group of society that can't communicate in a classroom. And there is a solution that is extremely accessible, and the government isn't having that level of conversation. Like, seriously, we'd rather talk about bills and put things into action to, we can't do this and blah, 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 blah. But we're not willing to invest in the kids that are actually going to grow up impacted in society that probably will never see college because it will be pointless by the time they're in it.
Yep. Or they'll be guided towards careers based on things from 30 or 40 years ago that make it to those deserts that doesn't reflect the reality of where we are today.
Robot repair technician.
The conversation we have all the time, with my 5.5-year-old and my soon-to-be-born son, right? Where they go to school, what they're being exposed to, how are they introduced to AI as a enabler to get contact, as well as
on brand,
to not completely rely on it, right? To be able to think independently and know when you need to actually learn how to, think for yourself versus just have the AI write the essay yourself, for you. A lot of difficult conversations to be had, and only the top level, I think, schools are even seriously considering it. And only where they have the comfort of the ability to not be paycheck to paycheck to then look around and say, here's what's going on in the world, and what might be happening. So I think it's a really, really good point. But again, democratization, right? The printing press meant fewer people in a situation where they couldn't read and understand what was happening in the world, right? Electrification, communication, those all had a net positive effect, even though the short-term stuff was pretty brutal. So I think we're in for that. There's going to be a lot of displacement, a lot of disruption, probably some violence associated with this shift in society too.
But no, society is
on the other end of it,
we're very peaceful.
Oh yeah, human nature's definitely changed.
Human progress has always found peace.
Yeah, it's but it'll be fun
put that into the reasoning model. Solve peace.
Actually, it's
a blind spot there.
It's an interesting one.
Yeah.
So all right. So what's this? What do we got when we're thinking about like all these impacts? Do we have a greater force for human progress, or do we have a corporate controlled dystopia?
I'm on the side of progress. I think this is impossible to bottle.
Yeah, I'm also on the side of progress. I don't think you can. I don't think they're going to control it.
Why?
Because open source, man.
Bingo.
Open source.
On-prem compute.
Yeah.
So once knowledge is out there, you can't control it. Yep. That's the key. Like, if you control the flow of knowledge, right, you control the progress of society. Right now, knowledge is moving at a speed that no one can fathom. So will the progression of society. And open source, I really think, even in the last 2 weeks, regardless of R1 and what it is, just the one we were talking about, Zora. Was it Zora, Randy? I can't remember. The one that I just posted in there. Essentially, OpenAI had this big announcement. Hey, in 30 seconds, we can mock your voice and make it sound perfect. And it's by the way, we're super special and you can't have it. And these guys have open sourced it, and it's brilliant. It is brilliant, and it runs on a 4090. So
if you can get a 4090.
Yeah, I mean, not everybody's Jesus, but it's I just can't believe GPUs are that ridiculous right now. But
anyway,
yeah.
Crazy. That level of democratization to a technology that can do that. Okay, well, what does that mean comes next and next and next and next and next? So does that mean that everybody has a localized O3 in 5 years? Maybe it's 2 years. What happens if it's 3? What the little mini computer, James, the supercomputer that we're going to burn my house down with.
Yep.
What is that one called? Bytes?
Digits.
Project
Digits.
Yeah. So what happens when you can fit an O3 on that?
Oh, by the time that comes out, you'll have 06 or 07 or something.
Exactly.
Crazy. Well, they skip numbers, so
they're going to GPT-5 next, I think, is what I read. Because that makes sense. That makes sense. This is the data scientists. Mute that out. But beep or don't. but we're going to see that democratization continue, which means, like, I agree with both of you guys at the beginning of the podcast. It was, we're going to see more and more people run their own businesses powered by AI.
Mhm.
Like we know this because we live it every day. How much shit can you get done in a week versus what you used to do? And like I'm always trying to push that boundary into the absolute freaking limit. But at the same time, like, I don't know, like 600 million lines of code in a week. Would I have ever been like, well, James, you know this. There's no way I would have ever been able to do that without AI. It's not even possible. I would have tried only because somebody told me I couldn't, but I would have failed miserably. But like, that is insane to think about one person putting out 600 million lines of code in a week.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It's a couple.
Sounds like a lot of tech debt.
Good things we have solid state drives locally.
Yeah, that's an interesting stat, because that, like, what was that, 40 gigabytes? That's not really lightweight, right? Like, there's a lot.
That's lightweight. Lightweight, baby.
Oh, I disagree.
Come on, you were a power lifter. 40 gigs, that's nothing.
Lightweight, baby.
Yeah, I knew. I was waiting for it. That's what I was waiting for.
Oh yeah, no, I know.
But no, like 40 gigs. Yeah, that's a lot of code. But what is innovation without failure?
No, totally. Like that. But what's the purpose of it, right? If it's for R&D and failing fast and learning, and that's the value.
I had 600 million lines of failed. How many failed did you have? Right.
Like,
because
that's the metric. The metric is not how many lines of code did I generate. It's how many lines of code does it take to hit my 100 lines of code of like value.
I disagree.
That I can put out there.
I disagree.
You disagree?
I do, because I think that approach is very enterprise-esque in its view. Like it doesn't matter how many times you failed. I want success, and you have to get to success. And sometimes there is no success. There is only, like, you failed, and you have to do, like, what happens the week that you have 600 million lines of code and none of it worked?
Well,
does that mean that
you're failing faster, so you're getting to that?
Yeah,
that's my point.
The point of failing is so that you can succeed, right? You just don't want to.
I don't know.
Time,
sometimes.
Right? I mean, it also makes for good podcast material.
You know, James, I love failure. I take it really well.
It's your favorite thing.
But
ever.
I mean, the way we should do another episode on this, with the way we do development, and to share with you guys the quote from Andrei Kaparsi, the OpenAI guy. He's one of the top researchers there. Was up on X a week or so ago talking about, he is a leading AI research engineer. He's like, I'm a vibe engineer now. I talk to AI, it writes code, and it fails, and I kind of vibe with it until it clicks. And that is definitely used to be frowned upon. I think that's going to be the way that things work. And then there's just an art to like knowing when you failed far enough. Like, what I found to be successful is I failed like crazy on Saturday with something I was building. Then I restarted on Sunday, and I kind of took the memory and the knowledge of that failure and gave it to the new thing. And it was
parts. You took parts, right?
Yeah. I took all the things that don't work. Don't do these things, and then go. And with a fresh start, it worked much better. Yep. So that failure, again, hundreds and probably tens of thousands of lines of code. Ooh. But yeah,
you just
gets
brought
us closer to where we need to go.
You just brought like a critical point here, though. So you said you had to start over, but why?
Well, because the current state of memory and reasoning are such that it goes into a loop.
Just walked right into it. Man, that was too easy. I was hoping for like a little bit of more dialogue, maybe some like back and forth, but no, man, you were just like, boom, nail on the head. No, it is that, like, it's really,
I don't know.
No, but like you're dead on. Like, James, how many times have we talked about it? Like, you seeded the model. That's what we used to say. You seeded the model so heavily, it doesn't matter what the fuck you do. It will always circle, and you can't get out of it. It's
much like humans. It's like it gets brainwashed. It gets like into a cult, right? It becomes It
cult
becomes the
of John.
cult of completion of some task that is
I did
unrelated.
it. I did it. I did what you asked. So
Cool.
1-800-CALL-ENABLE if you want to this is not
Enable
real,
me.
If you enable me. Yeah, I like that better. Thanks, Randy. If you want to join our podcast, oh, by the way, that's a fake number, so don't call it. Or do, and then tell
Or
us.
do.
Yeah, and
Tell
then
us.
throw a comment on one of the socials on who answered, because I would be curious to know. James is
All right,
like,
guys.
what the hell?
This has been great. Another good one in the books. Thank you both, and catch you
Yeah.
next time on another DNAI podcast.